Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Oilers. I'm joined today with my co-host, Faf, who suddenly is camera shy. All right. So, wow, it's been a week. So, what do we want to talk about? Well, I guess the elephant in the room is this week has been the Bouchard play again. And if you've watched any of my videos, that should come as no surprise to anyone. You know, I am not Bouchard's biggest fan, and he's making me look like a prophet this year. And to be honest, I'm not happy about it. I honestly would much rather he make me look like a complete and utter idiot. That he would come and he would play so well that even I would have to sit there and go, wow. Hey, this guy's a number one defenseman in this league, and you know he's a shoo-in for Team Canada. And rah rah rah, go Oilers, go! We can't do that with Bouchard. And anyone that tries to do it is being dishonest or is immoral. Yeah, he has some good moments. He had a great game in the last game. For him, he still made horrendous defensive mistakes that, if not for Skinner's excellent play, we would have ended up losing that game because of his defensive plays. But he offset it at least with some good offensive plays. And that's the thing with Bouchard, is you're going to ignore most of the defensive liabilities if he can offset it with the offense. Unfortunately, this year, he's not offset it with the offense. All we've seen is the defensive. And the defensive liabilities on their own means he's not even a top 5 defenseman in this league. I don't care what Bob Stauffer says. I don't care what Jason Gregor says. And I'm not the biggest Bob Stauffer fan, but I actually do like Gregor. But they both rah Bouchard endlessly, and they're both wrong. I'm just going to say it. They're both wrong. For Bouchard to be a number one defenseman in this league, he has to be at least average defensively. He doesn't have to be a shutdown defenseman. He doesn't have to be Chris Pronger, Jason Smith. Hell, he doesn't even have to be Sheldon Surrey. But he's got to be an average defenseman. And to be an average defenseman, you stop with the big, massive defensive zone screw-ups. But we see that every single game, at least 2 or 3 of them. And even last game, like, he got points, so good on him. And we won the game, so that's great. But we won in overtime. We should have never gone to overtime with Chicago, but that's a different story. But you got to stop with the big mistakes in our own zone. You have to be an average defenseman. And an average defenseman makes a safe play out of our zone. And then I am so sick of the media in Edmonton because I heard it again. It's like, well, you know, if Bouchard is worrying about his defensive play, then he's not making the big offensive plays. Getting the puck out of our defensive zone is not an offensive play. It has no effect on his offensive ability. It is a defensive-only play. Putting it up the boards, not passing it directly in front of our goalie to be picked off, not losing every puck battle behind the net. Like, these are not offensive plays, and being stronger in that part of the rink is not going to hurt his offensive ability whatsoever. So it's a false narrative that they're presenting. They're trying to make excuses for his bad defensive play by saying, well, he's bad defensively, so he can be good offensively. No, the two are not tied together. He can still be good offensively and average. That's all I'm asking for, is average defensively. So, yeah, that's the big story coming out. Which Bouchard do we get from night to night? I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know what to expect tonight. I'm filming this on Monday, November 3rd, and we're playing St. Louis in 3 hours. And I don't know what Bouchard to expect. I really don't. And that should concern people. That should really concern people, because at $10.5 million a season, we should have a consistent showing from him. Like, no player is excellent every single game. So nobody's asking for that, even though that's always what they bring up to try to defend him. No, nobody's asking him to be amazing every single game. We're just asking him to be consistent in the defensive zone. And you don't have, he's never going to be Darnell Nurse. He's never going to be Matthias Ekholm. He's never going to be Emberson. he's never going to be Wallman or Kulak. On the depth chart of defensive defensemen, he is I'd say he's number 7 behind Nurse, Ekholm, Wallman, Emberson, Kulak, and why do I always forget his name? The guy that was paired with Nurse at the start of the season that got injured by Kane. I'm drawing a blank on the name for some reason. But yeah, those were our best defensive defensemen. And then you have Nurse or you have Bouchard and you have Stetcher, and both of them have been really not very great on defense. So yeah, just be consistent. That's all anyone's asking. But so I don't know what to expect tonight. Hopefully we get the good Bouchard tonight. Hopefully we get the good Bouchard every night. Yeah, so that's really the discussion around Bouchard. You can come in the comment section and tell me what you think, how it's going to go forward. One of the things that drives me nuts, just absolutely drives me insane on the Bouchard conversation is how they always bring up his playoff play. Well, great. He shows up for the playoffs, but we got 82 games prior to the playoffs. We need him to show up for them. Quit trying to change the topic to defend them. Right now, we're in the regular season. So let's talk about the regular season. I split seasons up into 3 parts: the preseason, the regular season, and the playoffs. The preseason has nothing to do with the regular season or the playoffs, because the preseason, we've seen it time and time again where a player will come in and they'll have an amazing preseason, and then they'll hit the regular season and they can't do squat. Well, that's because in the preseason, you're playing against a bunch of juniors and college, university, and AHLers with only a sprinkling of NHLers. So the level of competition is like if you're doing a 0 to 10 chart, that would be about a 3 for level of competition. And then when you hit the regular season, you're at a 6. And then when you hit the playoffs, you're at a 10. So it keeps going up. So what a player does in the preseason really doesn't matter for the regular season or the playoffs. And in the regular season, it's the same thing. It's like you need the players to play well in the regular season so that you can make it to the playoffs. But if they only show up in the playoffs, that is not justification for not showing up in the preseason and the regular season. And that is how the media in Edmonton tries to spin it with Bouchard. Anytime anyone criticizes Bouchard, they say, well, he's the best player in the playoffs and he's tying Coffey's record in the playoffs and the playoffs and the playoffs. We're talking about the bleeping regular season. He's paid $10.5 million a season. If he can't show up in the regular season, we have a problem. And what he does in the playoffs does not matter until it gets to the playoffs. We're not paying him $10.5 million to only appear in the playoffs. And yeah, so that's my frustration with Bouchard. And well, I don't know, like I said, I really hope he does get his game together. And I really hope that he can play an average NHL defenseman game, because again, Evan Bouchard is never going to be a shutdown defenseman. He's never going to be a physical defenseman. And I honestly don't think we should ever see him on the penalty kill. I cringe every time I see Nobby put Bouchard out on the penalty kill. Like, what the bleep are you thinking, buddy? You got 5 quality defensive defensemen. Use them on the penalty kill. It makes no sense to me. But as I've said in other videos, I'm at my wit's end with Knobloch. I don't understand him. I'm starting to see how much he really was subservient to Coffey, because he's doing things this year that he would have never done in the past 2 seasons when Coffey was running the defenseman. And I didn't fully agree with Coffey either, but at least I understood it, because Coffey was molding the defense to play in the image of Paul Coffey, how he played the game. So that made sense to me. I would prefer, as I've said many times, having a shutdown line and a shutdown pairing, but that's not how Paul Coffey sees the game. And, who am I to argue? He's one of the best defensemen to ever play. So I'm not going to argue with Paul Coffey, and he was getting results. This season, I look at what Knobloch's doing, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? So Anyway, I'm not going to go on to that. It's all rehashed all over and over. But yeah, that's been the big story. Which Evan Bouchard shows up from a night to night? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think Evan Bouchard knows. And Connor can come out and defend him, and that's what you expect your captain to do. I criticize a lot of the Oilers in previous years when they wouldn't come out and defend Darnell or Skinner. So the defending of Bouchard kind of annoys me, because where were you guys when Darnell was getting raked through the coals by the haters in town? And the hate on Darnell was completely unwarranted. And the continued hate on Skinner. Like, where's the defense for them? Why is Evan Bouchard why do we have to use kid gloves on Evan Bouchard? He's 26 years old. He's a multimillionaire now. Why do we have to continue to use kid gloves on him? Bob Stauffer said something the other day, and I'd never thought of this, but it goes in hand of what I was just asking. Is they were talking about Bouchard had an absolutely brutal game. Terrible. He lost the game for us again. He's lost 4 games out of 13 for us this season so far. Him. And they were asking, why is there no accountability for Evan Bouchard? And Bob Stauffer surprised me with this one. He turned around and he said, maybe the coaches don't feel he's mentally strong enough to handle the criticism. And I got to admit, I never thought of that, but that might be absolutely correct. Maybe they feel he is so mentally weak that holding him to account like any other player would undermine his mental confidence so much that he'd become a shell of a player. And I'm like, I don't know Evan Bouchard. I can't answer that question, but I got to admit that makes sense to me, because any other player playing like he's played this season would have found themselves in the press box. We saw Nobby put Leon Draisaitl in the press box last year. So it's not the star power, because Leon is 10 times the star Bouchard will ever be. And we saw Nobby bench Nurse for basically half a game the other night, which is ironic, because the only reason Nurse was struggling is because they put Bouchard as his partner. So Nurse was trying to cover for Bouchard and ended up getting benched for not being able to cover for Bouchard, which to me seems like such circular logic that it makes absolutely no sense at all to me. But so Knobloch's not scared to bench his star players, but he won't bench or hold to account Bouchard. So you start asking yourself why, and maybe Stauffer's onto something here. Maybe it really is. They don't think Bouchard can mentally handle being held accountable by the coaches, which creates a real problem, because as I've said numerous times, coddling him has not worked. No NHL defenseman on the Oilers team in my memory, and I'm almost 60 years old, and I've been a fan of the Oilers since before they entered the NHL. No defenseman has ever been coddled as much as Evan Bouchard has. They got Duncan Keith to mentor him. They got Matthias Ekholm to mentor him. They hired Coffey strictly to help Bouchard's game. Like, that was the reason Coffey was brought in. No other defenseman in my memory of the Edmonton Oilers has ever been coddled as much as Evan Bouchard. So coddling, and his game hasn't gotten any better defensively. It hasn't. So coddling has not worked on him. So I'm of the firm opinion we have to start holding him accountable. But maybe Stauffer's right. Maybe the team, the coaches just feel he's too mentally weak to handle being held accountable. And if he does break from being held accountable, that would affect his offensive skills. And I completely see the logic in that statement. So yeah, maybe Stauffer is correct on that. I don't know, but it makes sense to me. All right, the other big topic going around is Stu Skinner. Now, I'm going to say it right off the bat. I've had no issue with Skinner. We pay him as a C+ goalie. Thus far, he's delivered a B performance. So he's actually performing better than what we pay him to play. I don't blame him for our losses. As I just went over, Bouchard, on the other hand, has literally cost us 4 games, and he's paid to be a difference maker on the ice. And he's making a difference, just not in our favor most nights. Truth is, this team is designed to outscore average goaltending and defensive liabilities. So when the team is failing to outscore those issues, that's not on the goalies. That's on the team. The truth is, Stu Skinner, as I said, he's paid to be a C+ goalie. He's not paid to be an A+ goalie. So anything better than a C+ performance, he's delivering what he's been paid to deliver. Now, if you want to judge him, like Stauffer keeps trying to do, as an AAA number one starter, then pay him like a AAA number one starter. And then you have the right to criticize him for not delivering that. But Pickard and Skinner are not paid to be number one starters. They're not. So thus far, Stu Skinner, in my eyes, has been just fine. He lets in he's weak on the glove, and that's not news. But we knew that when we signed him. And again, we signed him to be a C+ goalie. We didn't sign him to be a top 5 goalie in the league. Stu Skinner is never going to be a top 5 goalie in this league. It's up to the team in front of him to, one, help him by clearing the slot, tying up people so they can't deflect pucks, and two, keep the play to the outside. Skinner will stop most pucks if he can see them. It's when he can't see anything that he runs into trouble. But again, I don't have unreal expectations for Stu Skinner because he's not paid to be unreal. Everyone, when he outplays Dallas's goalie or the Canucks goalie, Demko, or he outplays, what's his name in Winnipeg, that's gravy for us because those goalies are paid $8, $9, $10 million a year. We're paying Skinner, $3 million? I think it is. Actually, let me check it. I'll take a look and see exactly what we pay Stu Skinner. I stand corrected. Stu Skinner is under a 3-year contract worth $7,800,000 with the Edmonton Oilers, which includes an average annual salary of $2.6 million. So we don't even pay him $3 million a season. So why would you expect him to play like an $8, $9, $10 million goalie when you only pay him $2.6 million a season? At a certain point, we need to temper our expectations into the realm of reality. So if you want a better goalie, who are you going to give up on the team to make the cap? Because you bring in Demko, and Demko's not available. I'm just using him as an example. Okay, I'm going to bring him up. Okay, Thatcher Demko is paid $25,500,000 with an average on a 3-year contract with an average annual salary of $8,500,000. So basically, he's paid $6 million a season more than Skinner. So where's that money going to come from? If you want Thatcher Demko or a goalie of his qualifications, who do we get rid of on the team? And before you say Nurse has a complete no trade. So no, you're not getting rid of Nurse. So who are we getting rid of? As I said, the team is designed to outscore defensive liabilities and average goaltending. And we're getting above average from Skinner. So the goaltending is not the fault, no matter how badly people want to blame him. Pickard has been giving us above average. So again, our goaltending is performing at their wage scale or higher. We can't expect them to play like $8, $9, $10 million a season goalies. It's ludicrous. Do you expect Adam Henrique to come out and score the same amount of points as Connor McDavid? I certainly don't. I'm a fan of Henrique, but I don't expect him to do that. So why do we expect goalies to do that? It makes no sense to me. And yeah, so I disagree greatly with the people that complain about Stu Skinner constantly. Yes, he's going to let in a few weak goals, and I'm not going to lose any sleep about it because we pay him $2.6 million a season. If we want a better goalie, we have to pay for a better goalie. And management has made it pretty clear that we're not interested in paying for a better goalie. There was goalies on the market this summer they could have gone after. They were high cost, but they could have gone after. They didn't. So, yeah, I think the blaming of Skinner is absolutely insane. I like what Skinner had to say when he was asked about his game so far. I feel really good in how I've been playing, and I feel really good about how we've all been playing. To be honest, sometimes wins and losses don't tell exactly how you're playing, and that's very true for a goalie. Like this last game, and I'll be doing the recap of the games, but this last game, we won the game because of Stu Skinner. And, he had a 930 save percentage, but one more goal and he's under 900. He faced 29 shots. So if he had let in a third goal in those 29 shots, he'd be under 900, but he was still the only reason we were in the game. There easily could have been 4 or 5 goals by Chicago if not for Stu Skinner. So I just don't get how it's always the goalie's fault. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they stink out the joint, and that's when it's up to the coach to pull them and get the replacement in there. But we haven't had that with Stu, and we haven't even had that with Pickard. And again, the team is designed to outscore defensive liabilities and average goaltending. And we haven't been doing that all season. I think we've had over 5 goals once or twice all season so far. And truthfully, this team should be running like 50%, 60% of 5 or more goals a game. It's that talented offensively, but the offense has not been there. So if we are going to be in 2-1 games, we're going to lose a lot of them because we have a $2,600,000 a season goaltender as our starter. And that's not hating on Skinner. He's not a top 5 goalie in this league. And I don't think he ever will be. But for this team, he's exactly what this team needs. They saved money on the goaltending so that they could put it onto the players up front. So it's on those players to make the difference, not on the goaltender to make the difference. So people like Bob Stauffer with sometimes you just need a save. He needs to stop. It's not Skinner's fault. It's the players in front of him. And that's it. Alrighty, before we get to the game recaps of this past week, we have my favorite segment, making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So what do I want to do here? Well, we just had the World Series. So we are going to dedicate this one to the World Series. And right off the bat, now that's how you complete a comeback in the playoffs. Now, sadly, the Jays did lose in Game 7, but they made it to Game 7. But yeah, take a look at that. That's hilarious. And speaking of Game 7, this isn't so much it's not a joke. I like this picture. Game 7, Blue Jay. And then we got Scooby-Doo. Let's see who this really is. That would be the villain. Yep. And I wanted to finish off making fun of the Maple Leafs with the Leafs standing as of Saturday. So this would have been November 1st. Montreal. Number 2 is Pittsburgh. Number 3 is New Jersey. Number 4 is Detroit. Number 5 is Columbus. Would have never figured that one. Number 6 is Carolina. Number 7 is Ottawa. Number 8 is Boston. Number 9 is Philly. Number 10 is Washington. Number 11 is Florida. They're really hurting without Kachuk. And number 12 is Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, this is going to change a bit over it, but they're already 5 points behind the Montreal Canadiens after 12 games. So, and then rounding off that conference, number 13 is Buffalo, but who's really surprised that Buffalo's in the dead last? They're tied for percentage with the Leafs. The Leafs have 1 more win, but Buffalo has 2 more overtime losses. So they got the same amount of points, same amount of percentage. So, wow, Toronto is really in hard and I love it. I love it. All right, so that was this week's segment of making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It couldn't happen to a nicer franchise. All right, let's get into the recap. So we had Oilers versus Utah. In the pre-show, I found out, this is actually kind of funny. A news article came out saying that Regula was out indefinitely from concussion. His recovery is behind the timetable. That sucks, as him and Nurse were very good as a pairing before the injury. But then about an hour later I was listening to the radio, Stauffer said he thinks Regula will be back this weekend, which he wasn't. So I guess maybe the news article was correct. And completely contradicting the news story I mentioned at the start of the pre-show. So I guess we'll find out which one is correct. And as I said, Regula was not back this past weekend. So maybe Stauffer was counting his chickens before they hatch. All right, this was one of the games where the Oilers actually scored a lot of goals. Oilers won 6-3. Shots on goal were 23-27 for the Oilers. First period was ugly, but then we got 2 solid periods, and this team will beat most teams in the NHL with a 40-minute effort. Imagine how dominant they would be if they ever gave us a full 60-minute effort. My 3 stars were McDavid, 2 goals, Ekholm, 1 goal, 1 assist, and Bouchard with 3 assists. My 3 slugs were Savoy, Mangiapane, and Stecher. Savoy did get a secondary assist, but was also completely invisible for most of the game. Mangiapane just has no chemistry with McDavid. I've covered that before. And Stecher, I have no clue what he was doing on the first goal against. You'd have to go watch it. I can't even describe it. It was ridiculous. And I gave a special mention to Rosevich. How he didn't get 2 or 3 goals is just bad luck. If he keeps playing this way, like he has for the last 3 games, they will start going in. The next game we had was the Oilers versus Rangers. Pre-show, we're going 11-7. Lazar and Phillip remain out despite Stecher not earning his spot and Savoy being invisible in the last game. This game went to overtime, and the Rangers scored at 2:11 of the overtime to win 4-3. Shots on goal were 34-36 for the Oilers. 3 stars I had were Nurse, 2 goals, Wallman, and Henrique. 3 slugs were Bouchard, Stecher, and Knobloch. Bouchard was not good in this game. He was really not good in this game. Nurse had a hell of a game in all the zones, which proves give Darnell a real partner and good things will happen. Punish him with Bouchard and things break down. Wallman is the perfect partner for Nurse. They both feed off each other so well. Henrique did all the work on the Savoy goal and could have had even more. As for the slugs, what's to say? Bouchard was Bouchard. Numerous turnovers, numerous defensive lapses, numerous goals against. Bouchard was playing the normal Bouchard game. Stecher played like a number 8 or number 9 defenseman, which is exactly what he is. He should not have been dressed for this game over Lazar or Phillips. And Knobloch, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He decided to punish Lazar and Phillips to play favorites, and we lost this game because of it. We are losing games because of Knobloch's decisions. This game was winnable. This game should have been a win, but we lost this game. And then we had Oilers versus Chicago on November 1st. This was game 13. Pre-game. Holy Hannah, bat fink, hell hath frozen over. Nobby McNob has put Phillip and Lazar in the same game at the same time. I thought the date wasn't November 1st. I thought it was April 1st. Next, you're going to tell me Bouchard's being held accountable? No, that was asking for too much. So this was also at the same time was the Jays game. So if you want to, I did a recap of the Jays game while I did a recap of this, and you can look at the long form game recap. I'll put it into the description of this video and you can take a look at that. So I'm just going to skip that stuff. Ultimately, the Jays lost in the 13th inning. All right, so this game also went to overtime. Ekholm absolutely missed a wide open empty net. RNH passed it to him and Ekholm shot and he completely missed the net. I don't know what happened there, but he missed a glorious chance. And then the Oilers scored 2:17 remaining in the overtime. Bouchard from Leon and McDavid. Leon circles perimeter and feeds Bouchard, who was stopped initially, but the bounce came straight out to him, and he just flipped it over the goalie, who was down and out for making the initial save. 3-2 for the Oilers. Shots on goal were 29-29. What I wrote was honestly one of the better efforts we've seen this season, effort-wise. Skinner was a stud this game, making the saves required and to keep us in the game. I suspect Howard and Lazar were benched sometime in the first, as I didn't notice them or hear their names for the rest of the game, but surprisingly, apparently they're both playing tonight. Well, I'm not surprised Howard's playing. I'm surprised Lazar got benched and didn't get sent back into the press box, but this game tonight has Tomasek and Stecher still sitting out in the press box, so I was surprised by that. Really didn't notice Emerson or Savoy throughout, though they definitely got more shifts. Mangiapane is working hard, but just can't buy good luck paired with McDavid. I really do believe Majapani can't be on the McDavid line. 3 stars, McDavid, 3 assists. Leon, goal and assist. And Skinner, he's the only reason we won this game. 3 slugs, Lazar, invisible. Howard, invisible. Emberson, invisible. And what I wrote was McDavid and Leon were flying tonight. McDavid had 2 primary assists and a 3rd assist on the game-winning goal. The reason I didn't give Bouchard the star is he's still a nightmare defensively. It was a better overall game by Bouchard, but those defensive zone turnovers have to stop. Special mention goes to Roslovic again. As for the slugs, I think Howard and Lazar were benched in the first for some reason. I don't know why. You could flip a coin on Emberson and Savoy as they were both mostly invisible. But let me say, 3 slugs because they're invisible is a hell of a lot better than 3 slugs because they hurt and cost us. Overall, we got a 40 to 43 minute effort from a team, and we shouldn't be going to overtime versus Chicago. So better showing, but still not a complete showing. And that was that game. And yeah, so that's my Let's Talk Oilers video for this week. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. Please come into the comments. Tell me, what do you agree with me, disagree? I give out a lot of opinions, and I can't imagine everybody agrees with me. So come in and disagree with me if you want, or agree, as long as you're respectful about it. Like, I had some guy come into the comments the other day and call me grandpa, but that was all his comment was. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, come in and give me your opinion. There is no wrong opinion. Well, if you disagree with me, you're wrong, but that's besides the point. But there's no wrong opinion. Give me your opinion. Just don't be an idiot about it. That's all I ask. And we'll have a discussion. And if I think you make some really strong points that make me think, I will use them in future videos to open up a discussion around your opinion. So please come in, let me know. Also, leaving a comment really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.